Oh,
Now that this is a little bit of foreshadowing. If you think about it, what we're doing right now is the business we're going into.
for sure. Yeah. No, it's very exciting. I'm keen for what's to come. I think there's lots of potential, like-minded individuals coming together.
It's definitely better with these arms, bro. These
Yeah.
arms are sick. Because also with those little stands I had, sometimes if you look straight, you're kind of looking into the arm and the mic. But now you can kind of look around it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the venture we are going into is starting our own podcast studio.
That's it.
In December, had someone, they came to me, they're a state agency, and they came to me, they said, we watched one of your podcasts. Would you be interested in, creating one for us? A little marketing strategy. It's not as much a podcast that it is kind of 2 minutes, 3 minutes introductions of the agents. The one thing we did was there was one guy who was selling the house, actually in the estate, and he sat down with the agent that was selling his house, and they kind of went over the house. They kind of went over, the things that are good about the house, things that appeal to certain people. And while he was talking, then I edited in videos of his house, photos of his house, that kind of stuff, and they put that on their YouTube channel. So that's the kind of thing that, that's what we're going to offer at our studio. We're going to offer people the opportunity to come in, and I think our biggest market is we're going to aim at businesses. Obviously still open to individuals, but we're going to open up a studio. We're fortunate it's literally just down the road.
Yeah.
So it's in the West Rand, and people can come in, they can record their own podcast. Businesses can come in, record their own podcast. You can use it as, 5-minute videos, an hour videos, Joe Rogan, 3-hour videos. So
That's it.
at the end of the day, it's exciting to be doing this, and I definitely think there is a gap in the market.
No, for sure. I think also it allows individuals who have like a speciality in their field to come in and just chat about it. I mean, like what you do, bringing different people onto your podcast. You might have a doctor or whatever the case is, bringing other people onto their podcast to, I don't know, just have an open-ended chat. And I think as a average Joe or whatever, people are interested. I mean, people are now wanting to learn a little bit more, understand a little bit more about different fields, different specialities. And yeah, I think it's a growing market. I think in South Africa, I think it's definitely a huge gap for it. And like we were saying earlier, I think it allows people to, like we said, on the way to work, listen in their car when they're doing cardio, like watch the video, whatever the case may be. So yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity. And I think it's just about showing people that it's available to everyone as well, that we're not just specifically targeting businesses, but that we do offer like a wide range of, I don't know what you want to call it,
or a wide range of individuals that for different purposes, a variety of purposes. We've had interest of people, obviously, that want to maybe start a soccer podcast.
That's it, yeah.
Interest from people that they come into this studio, obviously the temporary studio that we're recording in now on Saturday. There's 2 girls. Yeah. And they're coming, and I think they're just talking about the cycle. I'm not actually sure because obviously they haven't come yet. Yeah. But it kind of looks like it's the psychology of things,
Okay.
And how to approach certain things using psychology. And
for sure,
that's cool and that's insightful. And I mean, I was looking at stats, and I'm probably going to butcher the numbers, but it's something around 80% of all people listening to podcasts are listening to learn something.
For sure, 100%.
I mean, you're listening to obviously be entertained, but you're learning to. I mean, how many times have you had a conversation with someone and they're like, I heard X, Y, and Z on a podcast, and then tell you some information?
That's it. No, for sure. And I think I'm going to throw out a podcast that I listened to. This guy in the UK called Lewis Morgan, and he was like former co-owner of Gymshark, whatever. And he now has a podcast, and he brings on these young entrepreneurs who have built like little businesses from the ground up. And it's just so interesting. And I think the podcast allows young people to see, okay, well, they did it like this. Maybe I can take 1 or 2 things from how they built their success and adapt it to my life or whatever. So, and that's just a little portion of it. Like you said, soccer, sports podcasts, I think they're all growing. And I think the facilities that we offer is world class. I think that's the thing and it's affordable. Whereas people then don't have to go and spend hundreds and thousands of rands on equipment and stuff. They can just come in, record their podcast, and I don't know, like you said, we have the capabilities to edit, or they can edit their own podcast. So, I don't know. I think it's a step in the right direction in this market that we're going into.
And I mean, as you say, no one is going to almost be as stupid as me and go and buy all the equipment. I mean, you don't want to spend R250,000 on something that's not bringing you any money yet.
For sure.
Obviously, if you have a job, if you have work, You know, it's not viable to pay 250,000 rand to buy equipment, and you know, so where some people just don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're offering. We're offering, you know, top tier equipment, top tier facilities, and top tier editing, and you know, 4K footage. I mean, half the time, even Joe Rogan doesn't even film in 4K. And you know, some people's TVs can't even handle it. So the fact that we're offering it is just kind of future proofing.
For sure.
So that if you come to Jester Studios, you know, you've got future proof content that is putting you above the rest.
100%.
And speaking of putting you above the rest, bro, Gasoline.
Yeah, dude.
A dope clothing company.
Thanks, man.
Locally owned, which is awesome. And you're wearing it right now. Do you want to explain how you started that?
Jeepers, yeah. So Gasoline was a very interesting story. So about 2 years ago, it sounds so funny when I say it out loud. I was actually in the gym with a couple of mates, and we were chatting about clothes and stuff, and gone were the days of wearing like the stringers and stuff. And I mean, the fashion was seeping from the UK into South Africa, where guys were rocking the oversized stuff. And a conversation just popped up with the gents, and we're like, listen, like, where do you guys buy your jeans? Like, some of these oaks are struggling to buy jeans because, you know, the ratios with the gym boots, it's like small waist, big quads. And I thought there was a little gap in the markets, and I was like, well, let's see what we can do here. And I'm very, very fortunate. So my mom's fiance has been in the clothing industry for 35 years plus. We had a bit of a chat, and I was like, listen, I really think there's a gap in the market for this, and he's got awesome connections overseas, factory wise, which cuts out so much of the hard work that a lot of young business owners in the clothing industry have to face, and that's just the reality of it.
Well, I mean, bro, sourcing quality clothing and fabrics in South Africa, I think it's almost, it's almost doomed to fail.
Well, that's the thing is, and also like who to trust, what to trust. I mean, a lot of people don't have the startup capital to put a few thousand rand into, I don't know, samples or whatever. So yeah, it was just a really good opportunity at the right time. And so I ordered a pair of jeans from a brand that I've pretty much mirrored, called Legend London. So I bought a pair of the jeans and mirrored them almost to the stitch. So the same rip, same bold, or what's it, like material?
Fabric almost.
Yeah. So like the polyester, spandex combo or whatever. And I sent the sample off to the factories in China, and the jeans came. And it was very exciting when the denims arrived, and then COVID hit. So we had all the stock like in the garage of all places, and we were planning on just obviously maybe finding a little bit of a storage room or a warehouse. But obviously COVID hit, everything just went a bit pear-shaped. So we just sat on our stock for like a few months, and when level 4 rolled around, we were able to then sell online. And like the response on the online was incredible. Like it blew me away. So what was that? From May to October, we're just selling online, and it was ticking over quite nicely. Like it was snowballing in the right direction. And then my mom, myself, and my mom's fiance sat down together and we said, listen, well, there could be a little potential for a pop-up store here. After going to Northgate, of all places, we had a bit of a chat, and we got a little pop-up spot. And the rest is pretty much history. But So
it's a pop-up spot, but how long are you there? So how long's your lease?
So the lease is, so the pop-up is technically over. So it was a 5-month lease. So now end of Feb, now we sign a permanent lease. Okay,
and permanent, is it annually? Or?
Yeah, so I think there's different options for the permanent lease. I think it's a year or 2 years, but I think we're going for the shortest lease as possible.
Yeah.
Just obviously because of the unexpected. We don't want to be tied into like 2, 3, 4 years lease and still have to pay. Because I mean, like some of the stores in Northgate, for example, were still paying their rent even during the hard lockdown, which I find absolutely absurd. But I guess the malls also have to kind of make some money during the tough times.
Well, actually, one of I think it was my dad's friends, has a center, a whole center that he owns, and it's actually I think it's the Escort factory there near Honeydew Police Station. That whole center there next to it.
Yeah,
and he had to cover 5 million rands worth of rent during lockdown, when people, obviously he owns the facility, that's fine.
Yeah.
But he lost 5 million rand every single month for like those first 2 or 3 months or whatever before people could go back and operate.
Yeah.
So I mean, lockdown hit people hard, and I think
No, for sure.
you know, having a brand that is able, a company or whatever, that is able to kind of push past all the adversities that they faced during lockdown, and you know, the little bit of money that people didn't want to spend money after lockdown, during lockdown, and
100%.
to be able to make a successful company. I mean, now you got 2 stores.
Yes, yeah. Well, so we had 2 stores. We had the second pop-up store in Soweto, but that lease ended now end of Jan. So we're going to look at, what we've done is we've taken everything from that store, put into storage, and we look for a new venue or a new facility for another pop-up.
And did it not do as well as what you did at Northgate?
Look, it didn't do too bad, but yeah, not as well as the Northgate store. I think we were comparing apples with apples there instead of, you know,
I think it was a different market.
Yeah.
And even though I think Northgate is the perfect market, and you know, the demographic of the area and everything is perfect for, I mean, what you offer is far superior than what brands offer that are twice the price.
So I think that's where you've hit the nail on the head. I think is it's a really quality product. I mean, those who do have a pair of our denims will tell you that it's a really good pair of denims for 400 Rand. I mean, where can you get 2 pairs of denims, or 1 pair of denim for 400, or 2 for 600?
Yeah,
it's absolutely crazy. So I think that's it. Like we've hit that gap where good quality, really affordable. But yeah, I think even going back to the lockdown last year, I mean, when we opened in May in level 4, I honestly couldn't wrap my head around why people were buying the stuff. We couldn't go anywhere. Like people were buying the jeans and the t-shirts and stuff, and I was like, Oaks, like, where are you going? Where are you wearing this stuff?
This for your parents in the living room.
Literally, you're going to like Woolies in your new jeans. But yeah, like it's amazing to see like even the returning customers of what we from when we started. It's just I'm just very, very grateful. I'm very, very grateful, and I think it's got a lot of potential. I really do think so. But yeah, we have some new stuff coming now.
I saw you released on Instagram today some new shirts.
Yeah, so we have some new tees coming in, or that have dropped already. And then mid-March, I think, we have bomber jackets, denim jackets, lightweight jackets. So yeah, we thought, you know what, if we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Like, let's try our best to compete with the big guys in the industry, which obviously is like the end goal. But I mean, even in Northgate itself, like you stand in the store and you're busy like just floating around, and you look outside and you see guys walk around like in your jeans, and you're like, oh my word, like those.
I actually saw the other day.
So cool.
The other day at gym, I saw a guy at Northgate, the Virgin Active, someone wearing a gasoline shirt.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take a photo of him and send it to you to be like, bro, like it was exciting for me even. Saying,
no,
like,
so cool.
I can see Adam's brand getting out there, you know.
Yeah. No, it's very, very cool. So yeah, I think it's just about like, I think we've created a really good community, a very in touch community. I try and be as involved as possible, but it's also a clothing brand. Like I think I'm struggling to like find that mark between, I'm trying to sell an item of clothing, but I also want to be engaged with the audience, if that makes sense. So,
well, I mean, I think being engaged with the audience is a clever concept and, you know, marketing tool, because you're also selling a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You're not just selling a product, you're selling obviously a fashion lifestyle, and it's that hero, it's that, you know, it's kind of top end. I mean, literally all the t-shirts is an oversized t-shirt, literally with a tiny little logo on it, and the moment you have that tiny little logo, you know, that guy has almost made it.
That's it.
And that's obviously what you want to get to, is you want to, I mean, obviously in South Africa it's slightly, you see someone with like, let's say a Hero London t-shirt, like, yo, that guy paid maybe 1,800 or 800 Rand, whatever, for a shirt.
Yeah,
he must be wealthy
for sure.
You know, that's obviously also, you want to get to that where maybe not, okay, that person's wealthy, but you'll be like, yo, look at that guy's got a gasoline shirt on, that's cool.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even going back to the whole, like our little business venture is, this idea actually formed, I'd say even further back than 2 years ago, where I was actually listening to a podcast by the guy called, the podcast called The Brand Builder, and they had the owner of Hero on there, Ash White, and he was explaining his story about how he built his brand Hero and this and that, and it just motivates me so much. Like I was literally like, anyone can do this, like, and that's why I was like, you know what, I think there's a possibility for something cool in South Africa, like something really affordable. Yeah. And I mean, if I'm honest, I think in the online space and small businesses, I don't think we have much competition.
Yeah, I think there's maybe 2 other people in the whole Aliescha thing
Yeah.
that I've seen just by Googling places and everything. And I think what we offer is also, not everyone offers video.
Yeah.
So we obviously offer video, and we also offer, editing to your style of whatever themes and whatever you want to adhere to.
Yeah.
We edit towards that.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, as you're saying about being inspired by that podcast, I've literally every podcast I listen to, I get inspired by, I get ideas, I get, like literally I'll be working here, listening to a podcast while I work, and then I'll go eat lunch and talk to Sasha, and I'm so excited about these things that I heard and knew, like just listening to someone about something completely different, encourages me to think differently about the things that I'm doing.
For sure.
And, it gets me excited, and it gets me just thinking differently, and that's what podcasts are, and it's amazing the impact that they can have.
Well, that's it, and like it almost lights like a little fire in you, like, okay, well, like I've listened to this, like what can I do and how can I do it, and what's the next step almost, and it just motivates you in order to like just get through your day. And I know it's probably slightly off topic, but like COVID has brought so much negativity and so much like hardship, and people are trying to find that little gap. People are trying to find that little opportunity to create something special and to create something that they love. And I think a lot of people have taken a step back during COVID and said, okay, well, what do I actually want to do? Like, where do I actually want to go? And to hear these like somewhat inspirational stories from these businesses or whatever, or people, it motivates people to say, okay, well, I can also do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's also very interesting. And that's something I've also picked up. Like like you said, out of an hour podcast, 2 minutes can change your whole week. So, I mean, I think it's going to be cool to invite people into the space. And even if people don't necessarily sit and have their own podcast, they can come into the space and they can just listen, be a part of it, like maybe take 1 or 2 things from what you have to say, or which I'm sure you've impacted so many people across the board from like your own podcast. I think more than you actually know.
I hope so.
No,
man.
for sure, 100%. Like I'm sitting on the other side of the camera today, and normally I'm at home watching your podcast. I'm like, oh my word, like that's so interesting. And you motivate me to get my day going sometimes. And it's cool. Like, and I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people that do listen to your podcast. So yeah.
Thanks, bro.
No, it's such a pleasure, no, dude, honest.
You went to Pretoria Boys, eh?
I did.
Obviously, Elon Musk went to Pretoria Boys.
He did indeed.
And why does he hate South Africa so much? Do you know?
I'm not too sure.
I think it's cool because if you look at Elon Musk, you can see he's a very, he's different.
Yeah.
He definitely, I mean, he's super smart, and the fact that he's so clever kind of definitely, I think, would have made him being bullied in school. And I think that was maybe one of the reasons why, he doesn't like South Africa, because of his time here. Possibly. He was so bullied. And it's interesting because, everyone in South Africa is so like proud, like, the richest man in the world is South African.
Yeah. And
the richest man in the world is from Pretoria Boys. And it's so interesting how sometimes people take pride to something that they actually don't deserve to take pride for.
For sure.
Like when I was studying with people, they would say like, our first team rugby boys, they beat this team. I'm like, did you play? Did you play with them? And like, no, I was in 6th team.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, it's interesting how I personally don't think you can, claim a victory or claim something that someone achieved just because you kind of by proxy weren't close to them.
That's it, like you're right on the back end there a little bit. Look, I don't know much about Elon Musk, if I'm completely honest. I mean, I just read about what I see on the internet and stuff, but apparently he was quite a strange character at school. Like, I think he never really wore shoes at school, and he just kind of did his thing, like was a bit of like in the background.
Yeah, I think he's just so smart.
I think
that
so.
Everything he did, he didn't, obviously he doesn't care what anyone thinks. Obviously he's kind of developed into the person he is, and obviously he's changed over time. For sure. But I think he was one of those kids that we used to think were so weird at school. Yeah. One of those kids that were very clever, and they kind of were like the social outcasts. But I mean, now today is the richest man in the world.
That's it. No,
you kind of can't judge a book by its cover, and especially in school. I mean, if you think about the person you are today compared to who you are in school, it's completely different. Yeah, 100%. And I think it also depends on like who you associate yourself with after school or during school, whatever. I think I'm very, very grateful that the friends I made in school, I've kept really close with after school. And we're all very much like-minded individuals, and we just like go-getters, and we want to we fuel each other's fires, and I think it's so awesome. And like even our relationship, I mean, we have chats, and it's good energy, it's good conversation. It's not like, oh, Jesse, this dude's boring, like he's got nothing really to offer or whatever. But that's the thing is like, and unfortunately there's some relationships, and I'm sure I speak on also a lot of people, where you've had to say, you know what,
I've got to take a bit of a step back, not for any other reason, just because I need something a little bit more stimulating or whatever. So,
well, I mean, small minds discuss people, and you know, like people that want to inspire and aspire to something, discuss ideas, discuss business ideas.
For sure.
And I think every time we've interacted with each other, we've spoken about a certain aspect of business or a certain idea.
Yeah.
And that's what it needs to be. You have to have a circle that uplifts you.
For sure.
And you don't want to have a circle where I feel you don't want to be in a circle where you have been the one that has achieved the most. You don't want to be the person that kind of takes the most risks. You want to you want to leave a party, or you want to leave a hang or whatever with people where you leave inspired.
For sure.
You leave inspired because you heard a story that guy was telling you, that girl was telling you, that's like, yo, that is motivating. I want to be like that.
For sure. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think energy it's so important. Like, yeah, and I think a lot of people just settle for average, and look, each to their own, and everyone's on a different journey. But I think that's also one thing that we've I don't know, I don't want to say like excelled in or whatever, but we want to be better people for those around us as well, but also for ourselves. Like, we want to accomplish big things, and we have really big dreams. Like, the other day I sent you the link to that Cash App compound.
Yes, yeah.
And I was like, this is what it's going to become. And even when I watched the whole video, I was like, this is what it's going to be. Like, we're going to have this huge Jester holdings where we're going to have like endless things. I mean, there was like esports teams and flipping like marketing teams and podcast studios, like 5 of them, or whatever the case is. So
I think that would be awesome if we can, obviously starting now with podcasts.
Yeah.
We can, let's say there's 2 or 3 rooms for podcasts. Then we have 3 or 4 streaming rooms for gamers.
Yeah.
Then we have 3 or 4 music recordings, people where artists can come in and record. Then we've got a marketing team. And I think having these goals, and I mean, saying it now, maybe it doesn't come to fruition, but saying it now motivates me to work harder.
For sure.
You know, making myself accountable, making us accountable by saying, you know, this is what we are going to achieve.
For sure.
We are going to do everything in our power to make it a reality.
100%. And then like, it's even small things, like accountability is such a big thing. I mean, I remember in school, the teacher used to say like, write your goals like down in the back of your book or whatever. And then when you get to the end of the book or the end of the year, let's see how many of your goals you accomplished, whatever. And I remember doing that in grade 5. I still do that every single year. I write up my little goals and I chuck them on my fridge and I look at them every single morning. And I'm like, okay, how far am I away from that short-term goal, that medium goal, that long-term goal?
Your short-term goals, how short are they?
My short-term goals are 6 months. So I'd say 6 months. So my short-term goals are mainly like my personal self-help or self-growth goals. So it'll be like reading a certain amount of books, or weighing a certain amount, or benching a certain amount, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, and then the medium goals are, I don't know, it'll be like striving towards, I don't know, saving up for a car, or being a certain income every month, or whatever the case is. And I think the long-term goal is just, I think it's also very diverse. Like, I want to be happy in myself. I want to make sure I take care of my family. I want to make sure I've got good relationships, and it's not all materialistic.
Yes,
I think that's the thing. It's like, I think a lot of people think goals are just these materialistic things, where we have this massive house and this really fancy car, or whatever the case is. But I think there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's what COVID kind of did. It
shows you what's important.
That's it. Yeah, 100%. It shows you, like, I don't know. Yeah, that it's not all about the money.
Yeah, that's what I've actually, you know, obviously starting out, anyone, the moment you start earning money, like, yo, money is amazing, this is cool, start buying nice things. And then you realize, like, all these people that are super wealthy, they're not happy. Half the time they're less happy than people with less.
Yeah.
So I've kind of had to look at my business ventures as progressing, like it's a game, progressing and improving every single day, taking on new challenges, not to earn more money, but just because the more I put, you know, the more challenges I have, the more I set, the more goals I set, the happier I am. It's because I really enjoy having goals and having difficulty. It's not, okay, I've got a goal of making 50 million rand, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. It's, I've got a goal of, you know, being able to employ people, being able to provide value for certain people so that they can, help their families. They can help their children.
Yeah.
It's those kind of goals. It's not, obviously, the more money I make, the more people I can employ. But it's kind of starting from the bottom and saying, what can I do for this person? Let me help them.
100%.
What goals can I set today within business that are going to help my psyche? What goals can I set that are going to help me have better relationships?
That's it.
And it's also not letting those goals affect the relationships, because that's an important thing. And that's also something I've had to learn is, I've got Sasha, she's my fiance. I don't want to be working from 4 a.m. till 10 at night. Then, what time do I spend with her? You working to earn this money or whatever, but at the end of the day, you can't spend any of the money because you're just working all the time. You can't enjoy it because you don't have time to go away because you're working all the time. So it's kind of that fine balance of how hard do you work to earn a certain amount, and what enjoyment do you get out of it.
Yeah, well said. 100%. I completely agree with you, and I think that balance is what everyone strives for. I think people strive for also that freedom in order to do other things, not just your job. Like, I think a lot of people want to be in a space where they have the freedom to spend more time with their friends and more time with their family, and go do things that they
and really, I guess that's getting to a stage where your money works for you.
That's it, 100%. And I think obviously it's a lot easier said than done. Obviously people are in very different circumstances, and I think that's also another thing. I think some people look at other people and they're like, well, it was just handed to them. And it's frustrating because you're like, well, no, I still have a lot of work to do. Like, it's not just, yes, opportunity is there. And I think that's with gasoline as well.
You've taken the opportunity that you were given, and there was a little flame, and then you bought a lot of wood and you made the fire bigger.
That is 100% it. Like, I will never take away from the opportunity that was presented for myself, for gasoline. But it doesn't just grow itself. Like you say, you have to actively put in the work, and you actively have to make it work and grow, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And it's also about learning. I mean, Mike is an awesome mentor, and I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to spend the last 2 years with him, like literally just sitting with him and working through all the processes, because he knows all of it. And I'm just very, very grateful for that as well. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is, like, you still have to put in the work at the end of the day. Like, it's not just given. Yeah,
you were given opportunities, and who wouldn't take opportunities if you're given to them? If you have goals, like my dad's helped me a lot with, so some of my Jester Media clients will be a client of his.
Yeah.
So he will tell them about me. Yeah. That's all he does.
Yeah.
I still have to perform as a marketing agency to be able to provide them value.
For sure.
So he would sell a laser to someone, and he will tell them, he won't obviously mention my name, because at the end of the day, hey, employ my son. Obviously, it's a little bit of nepotism over there. So he'll say, we've got this company handling our social media. Look at them. If you want to use them, great. Because obviously that gets my foot in a lot of doors with a lot of doctors and a lot of salons. But, that's all he does. He says, okay, this lady's interested, phone her, whatever. Then I will phone her. I will set up the meetings. I will be with her. And then my dad's obviously excluded. And that's actually obviously how Jester Media started. Was my dad came to me and he said, handle my social media, his company. So I handled that. Then from there, kind of just snowballed, and I got the confidence. And that's also what business, and it's difficult, but what business and what I enjoy about business is, I would literally drive down the road. I will see a company, I'll see a sign, I'll see the billboard, I'll Google them. I'll see their social media. Like, okay, well, their social media presence isn't good. I'll email them, or phone them, or I'll set a meeting up with their CEO, owner, whatever it is. And I'll be like, this is the value that I can provide you. This is what I will do for you. These are my clients that I've handled, and, he has a little portfolio. They can look at it, they can decide for themselves, but it's putting myself out there. It's cold calling at the end of the day. And to get new clients, it's scary and it's difficult. And that's why so many people are hesitant to start their own business, because once it fails, you're on the street, or obviously not technically, but it fails, the buck stops with you as an entrepreneur.
100%. I think that's where, like, the studio is going to be so awesome, is like, people don't have to put their life savings into a podcast setup. It's all there for them, and it's affordable, and they can come and they can do their thing. And if they don't like what they do 6 months down the line, then they can be like, cool, maybe we've lost out on a little bit of money, but they haven't invested in hundreds and thousands of rands of equipment that now they're stuck with and have to try and resell. And look, I'm not too sure what, like, the resale values of these things. But
technology's got a terrible resale value.
well, there you go. So
It's like anything, actually. I mean, the only thing is maybe like commodities that have good resale value. But I mean, let's say a 25,000 rand camera, you'd be able to sell it a year later for 10,000.
there you go.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. I think that's where the studio is going to be very beneficial, especially for young people. Young people don't have that money to just be throwing around for.
Exactly. You can record, let's say, if we had to edit and whatever, you pay, let's say there's two people, you pay 1,000 rand each, then you get 4 hours worth of podcasts. Then you can go and you can promote that, you can grow your page. That's 4 podcasts a month, whatever. And I mean, you can grow your brand, you can inspire people, you can do whatever. And, you know, there's no limitation to what you can do on a podcast because you can't be censored. Obviously, if you're racist or something, then different story. But
100%.
you can talk about anything. You can talk about, you know, rape in South Africa. You can talk about...
Literally, it's
you can
open-ended,
talk about educating people on how bad Hitler was. Like, you can do anything.
For sure. And that's where, like, even a few mates of... So I play soccer on a Wednesday with a really great bunch of gents. And one of my mates, Josh, is like, listen, like, why don't we do, like, a little soccer podcast? And, like, just sit there and speak about... I mean, as extreme as, like, fantasy football. Like, the players or whatever, the matches leading up to match weeks or whatever. And people love to hear about that stuff because a lot of people don't have... Silly example, but a lot of people don't have time to sort out their teams before the match week starts, and they pop into a YouTube video. They see, okay, what is the...
Yeah, you're doing it for them. And
literally,
they just
you're doing it for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's still a bunch of guys, like, and that's it, like, we can do, like you say, from corporates to, like, the boys. Like, you can...
Yeah.
It's very open-ended, so yeah, I think it's very exciting.
And interestingly enough, you know, obviously I've had doctors or whatever people on my podcast, and, you know, the views are pretty good, but then I just get... Darren and Vele, and then the views are amazing.
Yeah.
Because there's banter between the people, there's
For sure.
you know, that relationship, there's laughs. Whereas if I get a doctor on, I've never met the person before. It's difficult to obviously crack hectic jokes in front of them.
No, for sure.
Talk about some inside story when obviously they're not going to know about it.
Yes, yeah.
So that's why it's nice to have the variety.
Yeah.
And that's what podcasts are. I mean, if you look at Joe Rogan, that guy gets every single different type of person on that podcast.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's the most well-known podcast in the world, and all he's done is sit down and talk for 3 hours at a time. And that's also why he's so successful, is the video aspect.
For sure.
Which is what we offer. And I think in South Africa, that's what's growing, is data is getting cheaper, so it's easier for people to watch podcasts. It's easier for them to see it. And, you know, that's what we offer. We offer an audio version only, a video version, and obviously long format snippets so that you can take it onto your Instagram page. You can post a 2-minute conversation that you have. You can post a 15-second joke on your reels. You know, there's so many different types of content that you can take. You can take, you know, a snapshot, a screenshot of the podcast. You can post that on Instagram. You can take a photo at the studio with your guest. They reshare it because they've got 15,000 followers. Your podcast grows. And that's the benefit of collaboration on podcasts.
That's it. And also it allows people like a little bit more in depth into your life a little bit. And when you're with a chilled bunch of mates, just having chats and stuff, allows people the freedom just to chill, and it's almost like they're there with you in a weird way. Like, I sometimes put some podcasts on my TV, and I just, while I'm cooking or whatever the case is, like, just listening to them in the background, it feels like I'm almost there with them. It's very weird. And probably sounds a bit weird.
No, I'm the same. You literally, like, while I'm working, I normally, like, I've got quite a big computer screen, so I have the podcast, the video in the corner of the screen, and then like my work on the side.
Yeah.
And I'll be sitting there for like an hour, 2 hours watching this podcast. Then I go and talk to Sasha, and like, it feels like I've been so removed from society. Like, I was just like in that conversation.
For sure.
And it's just so interesting how you can literally, it's like submersive. It's like virtual reality almost. Just like, I don't even have to constantly watch the podcast, but just having it in your ears, being able to glimpse over to see what's going on. You know, you submerge yourself into the podcast, and I mean, the amount that you can actually learn from podcasts is ridiculous.
So that's exactly what I said earlier. Like, a 1 hour podcast could take 2 minutes and it could change your whole day. It could change your whole week. Someone could say something really like touching and you're like, oh, sure, I never thought about it like that.
And also the insights you can get on approaching things differently, because you might have, let's say a guest comes on with, you know, you get a guest on that's maybe got depression. You're also dealing with depression. Then you watch this person, you see what they go through, you see how they handle it, and it kind of gives you a refreshing perspective on how to deal with something that obviously could be an issue for you, or something that, you're listening to a business podcast and you say, yo, that's actually a good idea. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. And it could, like I said, something so small, something so big as also. Yeah. I'm very excited for what's to come with
Bro,
us.
I'm glad we got to test out these arms. I
Yeah,
hope you guys
these are
enjoy
actually really
it.
dope, eh? Yeah, first time, eh?
Yeah, first time. I'll let you put them on today.
I feel honored, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So, boy.
Guys, thanks so much for listening. Adam, bro, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, boy. Thank you.
And guys, just wait for Jester Studios. This studio is nice already, but it's going to look terrible compared to what's coming. Cheers, guys.